That song we just listened to is called Slide, and it's off the album Bone Deep, and it's by my guest, the great Jeff Bradshaw. Jeff, how are you tonight?
Hey, man, thanks for having me. All is well, man.
Hey, listen, your story is amazing to me for a lot of reasons. I played the trombone in middle school, which is kind of cool, and I never imagined that the trombone would become a lead instrument. But everything I read says that you were instrumental in bringing it from the back of the band to the front of the band. What kind of inspired you to do that?
Oh, man, first of all, thanks for having me.
Sure.
I was inspired by a lot of things. First of all, I learned how to play trombone. My father taught me how to play trombone. I grew up, I was born and raised in a church called the United House of Prayer for All People, where gospel brass bands are the feature in the music ministry. My father was not just a youth pastor, but he was also a band leader on trombone. He led this gospel brass band, and it was one of the most amazing things that I had ever seen, and I grew up seeing that. Growing up listening to great gospel music and jazz, and obviously the great, J.J. Johnson and Slide Hampton, Curtis Fuller. I mean, having some great, but one of the guys who I really loved next to my dad was my favorite, was Fred Wesley from the JBs, who was, I believe, one of the first to take the trombone as far as in R&B and contemporary music to the front of the stage as a solo artist with Fred Wesley and the JBs, and he had a hit song on R&B radio called "House Party." And so a lot of people think that, I'm like the first trombonist to to be a contemporary R&B artist on trombone, but I'm actually not.
Right.
One of the first was, one of my idols, Mr. Fred Wesley, with that great song "House Party." So I'm just trying to continue on what hasn't been done enough, and now 20 years later, celebrating 20 years as a recording artist, and with this new album, man, it's like, my father played trombone, and he played trombone, trumpet, sousaphone. He played guitar, and he was a great singer. All of those things he did in church. He was never a professional musician, but he could have been. Right. He was a youth pastor, and he stayed in the ministry. But man, if my father did it, it had to be cool. So I played trombone because my father played it.
That's awesome. Now, I read, and I got excited when I'm reading your bio on your website. I read that you started on the baritone horn and the sousaphone. Is that correct? And then went to the trombone? Or is that right or no?
I started on drums.
You started on drums? Okay.
Yeah, I started on drums. Okay. And then in church, I started on drums, and I played baritone. I played sousaphone. And I ended up on trombone because, at some point, I felt like what I had to say through this instrument needed to be out front, and the band agreed. And so then I went on to really find out who these great trombone players were. Who are these guys that I've been listening to for the better part of my teenage years? And that's when I found J.J. Johnson and Slide Hampton and Curtis Fuller and all these great players. But then on the funk side, which is, I'm a funk hip hop head. So hearing James Brown and Fred Wesley playing with James Brown and then stepping off and do his own thing, I was like, wow, this can be really special. Because, we got enough sax players out here.
Sax, trumpet, you got plenty of them, right?
Yeah, we got plenty. It's time for brass. It's time for the bone.
That's exciting. Guys like you and Trombone Shorty and Hank Bilal. I mean, these are guys that, bringing that, trombone out there. And your album, Bone Deep, is
the beginning. Oh,
it's like... I'm in here with the DJ Kebby. He's gonna help. He is gonna help me do the rest of the show, and he had never heard any of your music. And I put on just the slide, just that cut, and he lost his mind. He's like, "Who is this guy?" I said, "Dude, this is Jeff Bradshaw, man. I'm telling you." Talk to us about Bone Deep. That was an amazing project. How did that come together for you?
Wow, the beginning, 20 years ago. The first person that took me in the studio was a really, really dope producer, singer, piano keyboard player, writer named Will Brock. And I didn't know, man, I was just trying to figure it out. I was like, there has to be something else. I just can't be like, trombone just can't be just for sidemen.
Right.
And even and being as I was brought up with it in church, the trombones were the lead instrument. That was the lead instrument in church on these brass bands.
That's interesting.
Was trombone. So Will Brock took me in the studio, let me hear a couple grooves, and I came up with the first song I ever recorded in the studio, which was "Can You Come Over" featuring Carol Riddick and out of Philly. Great songbird out of Philadelphia.
Yes, I know her.
Once I heard that, could you play it one thing, but to sit and hear it, and hear a trombone, playing it the way I do, over contemporary, instrumental music and contemporary R&B, I was like, man, I think we might be onto something.
Yeah.
We might be onto something. And from then on, man, we went on to record other songs, and then I went on a tour with Jill Scott and one of my good friends, Junius Burvine, great producer and musician. We went in the studio and recorded this song, recorded Slide and Beyond the Stars. And so when I started touring with Jill Scott, and Jill told the president of Hidden Beach Recordings, Mr. Steve, oh my God, I can't believe his name is escaping me. It's my guy. But his first name was Steve, and he was the president of Hidden Beach, and who had signed Jill Scott, Mike Phillips, and Kendrick the Family Soul out of Philly. And I was like, man, Jill was like, Steve, you need to hear what Jeff is doing. So I had 3 songs, and we let him hear the 3 songs, and he was like, wow. He was just like, man, I this is incredible. You got any more? So, continuing to tour with Jill Scott, and I recorded about 2 or 3 more songs, and I let him hear it. And we let him hear Slide, and he was just like, wow, man. He said, let's do this. Steve McKeever.
Okay, Steve McKeever.
Steve McKeever.
Okay.
And he said, come on, man. He said, I'm not scared to sign a trombone player. Let's do this. And 2003, November 4th, 2003, Bone Deep was born.
Amazing. What are you using on Slide to manipulate the tone on the trombone in addition to the slide? Obviously, sounds like there's something else going on with the bell of the trombone. What are you doing to that?
So obviously, it's good ear. Obviously, it was going to be something different. Trombone was going to be something different.
Right.
So people heard trombone, and when people think trombone, they think marching band. Right. Obviously, that's not the way my horn sounds. That's not the way I play.
Right.
But I was experimenting with some different sounds and effects, and I came up with a very soft, little subtle touch of phaser on the trombone. And that's what you hear. That's what you hear. It's a little phaser. So now I went and bought and figured out how to use it live. I wanted to have that effect live too.
Right.
So I went to a music store. I was like, man, I knew the name was phaser. I was like, do you have a phaser pedal? Like this guitar? He was like, absolutely. It's a green pedal called a phaser pedal that guitar players use. And I found a way to run a microphone through the phaser, out of the phaser, into a DI box, and man, every now and then, man. That's how I did it, man.
Okay.
And even in the studio, a Boss stereo phaser is what I use in the studio.
I heard that the first time. I was like, what in the world is he doing? That is an incredible manipulation of the tone of that instrument.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, man. So you have just so people know, you've played with, I guess, or recorded with Erykah Badu, Music Soul Child, Floetry, Darius Rucker, Mary J. Blige, Kirk Franklin. Jay-Z, The Roots, Earth, Wind and Fire, Michael Jackson, others. I mean, that's an amazing resume.
Thank you.
To have, man. What were those experiences like for you, and how did they shape you into the performer you are today?
Well, you know, we do music. I think I would say most of us, if not all of us, we're in the music. We're into this music thing because we're fans first. We're fans of music. I am a fan of music. I'm a fan of great artistry, no matter what the genre of music is. I'm a fan of all things music. So being able to record and tour with a lot of those artists, you know, I'm a sponge, man. You're just learning and learning and learning and learning and learning. But when you get into the studio and to work with some of the, you know, there's some of the great producers I've worked with that put out some of the biggest records in the world. I mean, working with Questlove in the studio, working with Questlove of the Roots in the studio, and going into A Touch of Jazz Productions, which was the legendary DJ Jazzy Jeff from Philly. He had a production house called A Touch of Jazz.
Okay.
And in that studio was these 6 producers who we call the architects of neo soul. It was Andre Harris, Vidal Davis, Keith Peltzer, Darren Hinson, Ivan Barrios, and Carvin Higgins. These 6 guys, along with, you know, James Poyser and many other great producers in Philly, these guys shaped this sound. This what people call what people will call neo. So we believe that they are, you know, some of the architects of this great music.
I never heard those names stated in that that way. That's awesome. Okay.
They gave you, those are the producers who gave you Jill Scott.
Okay.
Those are the producers who gave you Floetry. Those are the producers who gave you Music Soul Child, you know, and on, and Butterflies with Michael Jackson, and many other, you know, songs we did with Earth, Wind and Fire.
Right.
So many Sierra, Usher, you know.
But Jazzy Jeff was in the mix. Shout out to the DJs, right? Jazzy Jeff was in the mix.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Jazzy Jeff is not just a iconic DJ, and you know, one of the goats, but he's also a great producer,
right? And
he also has one of the greatest musical ears as a DJ.
Yeah.
He has such a great musical ear, and he has a great ear for talent,
yeah,
and great ear for knowing what producers have vision, and that's how he was able to collectively provide a space for these great, brilliant producers who gave us these songs from like Jill Scott, like Long Walk and It's Love, and you know, I mean, he's a brilliant guy, man.
So let's talk about the new project, Jeff Bradshaw 20. This thing. So first of all, so the people just need to know, you got on here Mike Burton, Eric Roberson, Keith Phelps, Rebecca Jade, Raheem DeVaughn, Chill Moody, Saint Ezekiel, Liz Vaughn, Jamie Knight, B. Slade. I mean, what a lineup of features.
Yeah, I mean,
for a trombone player. Give it up, man. Give it up for Jeff Bradshaw. Congratulations.
Thank you, brother.
On that.
I really appreciate that. You know, trying to compete, and this is year 20 as an artist, the 20th anniversary of Bone Deep. This is album number 5, my 4th studio album. I did a live album. So a lot of people are just now, a lot of people are, you know, you have to record music for fresh ears.
Right.
You know, you're always going, every album is always going, hopefully, if you're blessed and God has ordered your steps and laid things out before you, you're in a position where people are going to be hearing you for the first time. So you can't record music. You can't record music like, oh, they know me, blah, 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 blah. Every time I record an album, I'm trying to reach another pinnacle, another stratosphere when it comes to recording and putting together a great movie. What I consider my albums are movies. They're journeys. When you start it, there's no skipping. When you put on a Jeff Bradshaw album, you know, it's like that, just like the live album. Everybody's like, 2015, I dropped Jeff Bradshaw and Friends Home, one special night at the Kimmel Center. And people were trying to figure out, you got Kenny Lattimore, Will Downing, Take 6, Kim Burrell, Marsha Ambrosius, Bilal, Eric Roberson, Robert Glasper, Tweet. People are like, how the Trombone Shorty?
Yeah.
People are like, how the hell?
That's right.
How the hell are you going to top that?
Right.
And then I came back with Stronger.
Yeah.
I came back with Stronger, you know, and 2020. And it was like, wow, you really came back with Raheem DeVaughn and Robert Glasper and Amber Jean and Moonchild. And I mean, I came back with it.
Yes.
You know, they're like, how are you going to top this? And you know, it's really not. My friends are great artists, and
right.
and these features are people that I consider friends.
Right.
These are my family. And we just fellowship in the studio. You know, they're my creative family. And a lot of them are my real friend. A lot of them I'm really close to. And so it's not really about grabbing names. It's not really about grabbing name chasing.
Right.
I never was about name chasing. My friends just happen to have amazing superpowers. They happen to be legendary artists. They happen to be incredibly creative people. So I wanted to make sure that on this record that not only did I have Eric Roberson and Eric Roberson on this record, who I've worked with before, Raheem DeVaughn on this record, whom I've worked with before, but to bring out incredible people, incredible creatives like Liz Vaughn, like Jamie Knight, like Saint Ezekiel from Ghana, and give them Afro beats, and you know, Keith Phelps. People, these names, some of these names that people have never heard of before, but if you know that they're on my album, you know that they are incredible, creative, God-given, talented people. So this album was about finding the best records and pairing them with the right people. You know, I think that trombone plays a great role in a lot of great music, but on my albums, it is the forefront. But on my albums, it plays many roles. I approach these albums as an executive producer because I am that on my albums, but I approach these albums in a very clever way that you see the many roles that that my horn plays. I play the role of producer. I play the role of writer on some songs. Some songs there's just trombone. Some songs there's vocals with trombone. You know, it's trombone in every song.
Right.
But what I do is I show the journey and I show the many, many roles that my trombone plays and my many different approaches. Like I really approach these albums like my mentor, one of my mentors, Mr. Mark Byers, great musical mind in music from Philadelphia. He said, you should approach your albums like Quincy Jones. And that's what I've done. I've tried to approach these albums as a master producer like Quincy Jones, who is a jazz trumpet player.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. I tell you, it's amazing. The album is fantastic from top to bottom. I call it elite urban sophistication. You know, elite urban sophistication, because, and it's eclectic. So throw that in there. Elite, eclectic urban sophistication, because you have the Afro beats, you have the R&B, you have the jazz. And what I found really clever, and usually I'm not a big fan of all covers of R&B songs, because sometimes smooth jazz gets a bad rap, or you guys are just doing instrumental R&B. But your cover of How You Gonna Act Like That, it's the first time. I know it's not the first time, but it's the first time I've heard the trombone doing a duet almost with the vocalist. Like the back and forth between the trombone and the vocalist in that song is top shelf, amazing. Pat yourself on the back. That I was like, this dude is doing a duet with a vocalist using the trombone. Oh my God!
Thank you, brother. And we can't forget the incredible tenor saxophone player from Atlanta, Georgia, Mr. Mike Burton.
He's
the song was produced by this really incredible producer and multi-instrumentalist out of Atlanta, Georgia, named Jelani Jackson. It is some very, very extremely godly gifted, talented young producers in this country and out of this country. And you just have to tap into these young geniuses, man, and let them, and especially when they're fans of your work. Right. And he was somebody that I was a fan of his work. He worked on some of Mike Burton's albums, and I was a fan of his work. And I was like, man, one day I hope I get to work with this guy. And I felt like it was the right time. He understood and understands what I'm trying to do. And when he gave me that song, man, I was like, yeah. And I'm a big, and that's my favorite Tyrese song. So that's my favorite Tyrese song.
Yeah.
You know, shout out to Tyrese, man. I'm a big Tyrese fan, and that's one of my favorite songs by Tyrese. And I've always wanted to play it. And I think we pulled it off.
You played that. Yeah, you did that. One more, and I'll let you go. What would you say? You've been in this 20 years, Jeff Brad, 20 years producing music. It's a long time, and it's a lot of people start and stop. It's easy to get frustrated and quit. What would you say to musicians who are struggling with, you know, should I keep going? Should I stop? I don't feel like I'm where I want to be. What would you say to people wrestling with those kinds of emotions?
Man, what's crazy is this is 20 years as a recording artist, but this is 28 years that I've been recording music and playing on albums and touring and playing shows. What I would say is everybody I'm borrowing this from my big brother, Mr. Jazzy Jeff. Everybody is born with a superpower. God gave everybody some form of gift and talent. It is really up to you to hone in on what your superpower is. As a musician, we all have something. We're individually special. God gave all of us something special. You have to figure out, once you find out, hey, this is what I do, you know, piano is what I do. God gave me the gift to play piano. So what you have to do is live and breathe piano. I live and breathe trombone and music. Live and breathe music. And this is to the instrumentalist. If you're a piano player or a bass player or a guitar player or sax player or trumpet player or a trombone player like myself, you have to find artists that play your instrument and then find the one that really speaks to you, speaks to, you know, what makes you feel good and what you love about the instrument. From that point on, you have to go and find your voice. I never wanted to sound like anybody else. Right. My father, the late, great Norman Bradshaw, taught me how to play. A lot of people don't know this. I'm self-taught. Mm-hmm. I didn't go to college to learn music. I didn't go to any music school to learn music. My father taught me to play trombone. He taught me to play old gospel hymns and old gospel songs on trombone. And he would give me a song to play. He said, all right, I'm gonna give you a couple of days to work on this. And a couple of days, I want to hear it. I want to hear what it sounds like. I want to hear, and I want to hear the words of the song. He taught me to play the lyrics, know the words of the songs, so that when you play it, you're singing the words to your trombone. Right. And so that's why nobody sounds like me except myself. I sound like me. Right. I'm one of one. Right. I grew up in a church with all these great trombone players. We all have different styles and how we sound. But my father taught me to play these words, play these words. His eyes is on the sparrow, amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Like, you got to play the words. My father said, if I can't hear the words, the song means nothing. People need to know what you're playing. Play the words. That's powerful. Learn the lyrics. Learn the lyrics of the song. Learn the words of the songs. And once you know the words of the songs, then when I get out and play some neo soul, oh, I know it might seem strange. I don't want to press you. I mean, like, so that's why I sound the way I sound. And that's what Jeff Bradshaw does.
That's great advice. Jeff, thank you for making time. I know you're busy. Happy to have you on the program. And listen, God bless you. We'll keep promoting your music here in Connecticut. Hopefully you'll come through the tri-state area.
Absolutely.
And we'll get to see you live. I want to see you live in the worst way. So
I'm coming. I'm coming.
All right. You promise?
I'm coming. Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you so very much. I'm coming, man.
All right.
Thank you, brother.
I'm Doc Hardy. He's Jeff Bradshaw. We're going to close it out with this track we were talking about. The track is called How You Gonna Act Like That? And from his album Jeff Bradshaw 20. Jeff, thank you so much. Here we go.
Thank you.